Here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader here at Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So we jump on here every Wednesday, kind of give you a rundown what's going on in the real estate market over the last 7 days, current events, things that we've seen in the marketplace, nationally, locally, all that kind of fun stuff. So our little quick tip that we usually do every week. So it's more of an informative thing that just took an effect as of yesterday. So July 1, there's a new Nebraska license law for us as real estate agents that most of you may or may not be aware, that they basically the exclusive buyer agency agreement or buyer representation agreement, whichever way you want to cut it. Basically, it's the same agreement as that before any agent, before you, the buyer, goes to look at a home with a real estate agent, that you would need to enter into an agency representation agreement. So basically, that can be for one day, it can be for 3 weeks, a year, depending on that side of it. So, here at Champions Real Estate Team, our goal is to sit down with you and have a buyer, coaching consultation and kind of get you what you need to know when you're buying a house. And our goal is to show you the value that we bring, and the representation that we bring to the table, so that you choose us to work with you. So I think before most of the general public would, oh, hey, I want to see this house. I'll call an agent. They'll show me the house. I'll call this agent, then they'll show me this house. And, you may find one that you like to work with, and that's great. But there was, at the time, there's really no loyalty, and no agreement between that buyer and that agent that they are working exclusively together, to find a house. And then basically the biggest thing on that is the transparency of essentially how our commissions get paid. And so that's what that agreement spells out, is that, if we find a house, then, the buyer agrees to pay, the agent a certain commission. That's all negotiable. A lot of times how it has been, is basically that purchase price or that commission is built into the purchase price of the house. And then the seller was looking like, well, I'm paying that commission. And then truly that seller's not paying that commission. That buyer's actually paying that commission over the life of the loan, essentially, in all regards to that. So that's all stuff that we can, explain more to you, when we sit down in that coaching consultation, coaching session with you about getting ready. What do you need to know as a buyer? Is now the right time for you? All that stuff that we talk about here every single week. But that is just a law that has just taken an effect. It used to be a rule by the national associations prior to, as of August of last year, I think it was August 17th, that we had to, prior to showing any house, it was a national association rule based on the settlement they had from a lawsuit. And so, the real estate commission, when we go to sell a house and we work with the seller, we have to sign a listing contract. Hey, here's a listing contract, here's the commission, this is what we do. We enter into a legally binding agreement between the seller and the agent. And before yesterday, we didn't necessarily have like an agreement for the buyer. We've always had that agreement, but most buyers are like, well, I'm not going to sign anything. I don't want to be obligated to payments. Well, now it's just that full transparency out there. So happy to go over that agreement. Anything that anybody has any questions on. Like I said, I'm on the real estate commission, the education committee down there. So it's all stuff that we've been educating agents about it, how to, inform the public about what that agreement all entails and stuff like that. So, like I said, if you have any questions, reach out to us. Ultimately, we love sitting down with our clients. I'm going to sit down. I know you got another newer client. I'm going to sit down on Saturday with and basically go over everything. And it's sometimes those are 30-minute conversations. Sometimes we get talking, and obviously you see on the video, if you've watched this before, I can get talking about a lot of things that I get excited about: buying houses, selling houses, and that's an agent I feel you'd want to work with, that's excited about what they do, want to educate you, whether that's buying an investment property or keeping that house you want to sell as an investment property, and that's our goal. Our job is to be a real estate advisor to you, not necessarily an agent. I'm not just trying to sell you this, sell you that, cash a commission check. Well, how can we help you, in your wants and needs and generational wealth and all that fun stuff? So anyways, that's kind of my quick tip, long-winded quick tip, but it is a big deal out there. So you may go to an open house, and as a listing agent, if I can show my listing without having to a buyer, without entering into a buyer agency agreement. Now, if you come into like an open house, I have a brand new listing coming up tomorrow. Awesome listing off of Oak Hills. I can talk more about it a little later, but in this sense, if you come into the open house, I can show you that house, and you would be a customer. I would not have any agency relationship with you. I do not have a fiduciary responsibility to you in that relationship. But if you say, hey, there's a house down the street, Mark, I'd love for you to show it to me, that's when we would have to enter into some sort of agency relationship for me to show you that house. Now, used to be just a rule. Now it's a law. And I operate in the legal limits of the law. I don't want to lose my license, and prevent my opportunity to put food on the table for my family and stuff like that. So those are some things. So don't be shocked if you're out at an open house and you kind of don't have an agent yet. We love the opportunity to work with you here at Champions Real Estate Team, but we understand there's many great agents out there to choose from. So if someone does ask you, hey, we need to, you need to sign this agreement. One, you don't have to sign it. Two, you want to know what you're signing. How long is that agreement for? Are you signing it for 6 months, a year? Just one listing. Hey, I'll show you this one house. I'd love to earn your business. Let me show you what I can do to earn your business. And then, it's a mutual relationship that you want to work together with that agent. So, anyways, that's a long-winded answer to you, but like I said, I talked too much. So let's jump into what's gone on in the real estate market over the last 7 days. Like I said, all you got to do is go out of town and the market gets a little crazy here. So, went out of town a couple weeks ago and sure enough, got a lot of the listings are sold and stuff like that. But active new listings that went on the market in the last 7 days is 744. New contracts written is 431, which is similar ratio that we've had the last couple weeks. We've seen, I think, 18. I think when I was just looking earlier today, we have 18% more listings than this time last year. So we got more inventory out there. And I think last year we also were having the big fluctuations that we saw in the rates going up. Right now, I feel like rates are steady, they're ticking up, ticking down. Kind of depends on the flavor of the day. For all intents and purposes, I think I saw they're down a little bit lower today. Who knows what brings tomorrow? That's what we bring Russ in here for, to give us that rundown. But that's what we're seeing last year, that uncertainty of the rates going, rates were going up. And now we're seeing them level out. And so we're seeing, more inventory out there, more buyers out there. We've had 579 happy new homeowners this last week. So, still a great opportunity to buy. I'm seeing multiple offers in my last couple contracts that I've had written. We're seeing one or two offers. We're not seeing the 10, 15 offers we saw, a couple years ago. So, if the house is ready to rock and roll, maybe that house has even been on the market a little bit longer, because there's some houses I've seen that they've on the market a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden you write a contract, and you're like, oh, no one, it's been on the market. No one else is going to write a contract on it. Well, that selling agent, their job is to get the highest and best price. So they may call other agents that have seen that property in the last month or so and say, hey, we just got a contract. I'm just seeing if your client's interested at all. And then it's funny to me how when one person wants something, everybody wants it, and so then all of a sudden now you're like, well, how the heck, this house has been on the market for 30 days and now we got 2 offers or 3 offers. Well, that selling agent's doing their job of doing what's best for that seller. But, so make sure that as a buyer's agent, how we can be competitive in that marketplace too. So, that's kind of my rundown. I kind of see what's going on in the market in that sense. So let's look at a 30,000 foot view. This pulls up here. So similar numbers what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. So we're just under 3,700 homes, 2154 in Douglas Sarpy County, existing homes at 1245, and then 909 on the new construction. Months of inventory is 2.6, and our average sold price just kind of stayed the same from last week at that 350, 353. Looking at those numbers, these are pretty healthy numbers. That 2.6%, that's just the overall market. Depending on what price point you're in, that may be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. So for frame of reference, 0 to 3 months is a seller's market, 3 to 6 is like a neutral, healthy market, 6 and above is what they deem a buyer's market. So when there's more houses out there than there are buyers have a larger selection to choose from. So, that's kind of the rundown. Trying to keep it short and sweet. So let's jump on here with Russ and see what's going on in the mortgage industry. So how are we doing, Russ?
Doing pretty well. You're right. Earlier you mentioned that we saw some improvement in rates over the week, and we did. That's on some weaker economic data. On the last, usually the last Thursday or Friday of the month, the government will release the personal consumption expenditures report. That's the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. It came in softer than expected, which is good. Also, we're seeing some good news this week, potentially for mortgage rates. Not good for the economy necessarily, but the ADP report, which is a large payroll company, national payroll company, reported fewer expected new jobs than what the forecast was. And the reason why that's significant is on Friday, actually on Thursday of this week, we're going to have the non-farm payroll report. And if it happens to come in weak, that would be an indicator that jobs are weakening. And here's why that's important. You may recall that in September and also November of last year, the Federal Reserve Bank cut short-term rates by 50 basis points on the first meeting, then 25 in the second. But mortgage rates actually went higher. And the reason for that is because we had much better than expected employment data towards the end of 2024. This time around, we have the next Fed meeting at the end of July. And if this report on Thursday of this week comes in weaker, we could see a little bit of a rally in mortgage rates on the belief that the Fed might actually cut short-term rates in July, which would be good for credit cards, student loans, auto loans. But with weaker economic data in the form of fewer jobs, that could actually bring mortgage rates down as well. Are we going to drop to 4%? No. But to see them improve from where we're at, we expect that that could bring some people off the sidelines. So what I would encourage you to do is reach out to Mark and his team if you have not yet bought a home, because if we have more folks coming off the sidelines because rates have improved, that means more competition. That puts upward pressure on home prices. It's harder to sometimes get concessions from the seller and to have contingencies on that contract. So I'd make sure that you work with Mark and his team as soon as possible in the event that we see rates improve. If they don't improve, we can always refinance later on. This is still a great time to buy a home.
Yeah. So like I said, and holiday weekends, that's kind of hit or miss as far as, I mean, my 17 years, you may have people coming in from out of town, but you also may have a lot of people going on a barbecue, going to the pool, do all that kind of fun stuff, but if you're serious about buying a house, I even tell my sellers that, like I said, I got the listing coming live tomorrow. So it was going to go live last week, but we just want to make sure it's ready, rock and rolling. Got my house cleaners in there, and so we got to make sure it's really, really, really ready for the market and all that good stuff. But I told the sellers it may be a slow one, but the thing is, the buyers that are out there looking on a holiday weekend are your serious buyers. They're not the looky-loos like, oh, if we find something, that'd be great. If not, no, oh well, we got time. But the thing is if things come on the market, today or tomorrow, and there's might not be a lot of traction. If you're one of those buyers that's, wanting to look for something, get out there and see those houses ASAP on a holiday weekend and get, and get it before the rush or the people decide, oh, let's go look on Sunday, after we have our, the holiday weekend with the 4th of July being here on Friday. So, but yeah, awesome. Appreciate everyone watching and listening. Thank you very much. Like I said, if you have questions, comments, let us know. Happy to help. If you have questions about the new license law that went into effect, shoot me a message. Happy to chat with you. Jump on Zoom or meet you in person and kind of go over, what that entails to you as a buyer. Like my job here is to coach and educate you, so you can make the best decision for you. But yeah, have a great holiday weekend. Come back with all your fingers and toes on Monday, and we'll see everybody later. Take care.